Welcome back. So today I am going to talk about my my entry model. The entry model that I use is not mine. The entry model that I use using inverted fair value gaps. So the first thing I want to mention is there's a bonus at the end of the video for those who stick around. Secondly, this is not a mechanical strategy. It's not a mechanical entry model. It's a very discretionary way to trade. You have to know how to read price. You have to know how to see what it's telling you, understand movements of candlesticks and that kind of thing. It's not mechanical. So we'll put that out there. Third, in order to know this, you need to know what an FVG is, what a fair value gap is. I'm not going to teach you that. You can find it all over the place. It's taught by ICT originally. I recommend learning it from him. Watch his 2022 YouTube mentorship, and you'll learn all about fair value gaps. Fair value gaps are a very core basic foundation of ICT's concepts. So learn what that is and learn what liquidity is and how to spot liquidity really in order to trade this. So those are kind of the cores behind it. So an IFVG, an inverted fair value gap, is a fair value gap that's been disrespected. So here's what I used to do. I used to wait until like something similar to this. I used to wait until price would trade down and then come creating this gap, this fair value gap, and then come back up into it, tap it, and reverse. And I'd set a limit order here so that when price came into it, tag my limit order, I would hope for it to turn around and trade my direction in profit. And as I've explained in some previous videos, I did not like sitting here waiting for this to turn around. I mean, really, in order to gain any decent profit, I would have been sitting here from 8:42 to 9:40, an hour, just watching it chop right here until it took off down. Now, it would have been a good trade, but you don't really know if this fair value gap is going to be respected. You have no idea, really. It's going to come into it, and you're just hoping it taps and turns away. What if it blows right through it? You know what I mean? So what I ended up doing is waiting for that confirmation. I would wait until some candles, rejected and some candles printed. I'm going to zoom up because I like looking at things kind of small. There. So I like waiting for candles to print, rejecting that fair value gap. Then I kind of know it's being respected. And there's many examples here. In what I ended up discovering is once it would reject away, I would notice that on the other side of the leg going into the fair value gap, there were these. There's one there, comes back in and then rejects away. And it also, there's one there. And then it does it yet again. And there's one here. So instead of just, I started seeing this pattern that every time it rejected away, if it was good, it would reject away, close over a fair value gap that it made on the way up, thereby creating an inverted fair value gap, and trade away. So I started using that as my confirmation, because just having some candles close out of here, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 candles that close out of here, but it still goes back. There's a few candles here, 4, 5 that close down, but it still goes back. So eventually, there's a number of examples in this particular section of price action, but eventually you get a close over and it takes off. Look at this. I wait for the close of the candle, which is here. So my entry would have been right there. Put your stop loss wherever you want, take profit wherever you want. But as soon as I enter, it trades right to here, so less than 3 points, maybe about 3 points, and then rips. So there's no waiting for anything to turn around. So I've loved this strategy, I really have. Here is a quick little text of the things that you need kind of for this strategy. You need a high time frame interaction. You need an inverted fair value gap to be singular. You need a close over it, and it can't take a swing point in the process. So to touch on those, where are we at in price action here? On the 15-minute chart is what I use for my high time frame, and there is, in this particular section of price action, a very small 15-minute fair value gap, and this 1 minute fair value gap overlaps it. So I know that this whole area is strong, more or less. Just below, I think there's also, I like this one. Just below is another 15-minute that actually gets respected by price action, and it immediately is overlapping this big, huge one. So you want a high time frame interaction, right? It taps this purple area, which is a 15-minute fair value gap, a couple of times. It's being respected. We like that. That's the normal way fair value gaps are used. They're created and then tapped back into to rebalance them. So we want that higher time frame than what you're trading on. If you trade on the 5 minute, you want to look at the 1 hour. If you trade on the 15 minute, you look at the 4 hour, so on. You kind of trade up into you look at a higher time frame, reference that for your interaction. So wait till something happens there. And IFVG needs to be singular. So what that means is the leg that comes up, you can call this your manipulation leg, if you will, needs to only have one inverted fair value gap. You don't want two of them stacked next to each other. I don't know if I have an example of that here. Yeah, I kind of do here. You see how there's one there and there's one right on top of it. Two of them. You don't want that. Now, why did this work out? We'll go over that in a second, but you don't want to have more than one stacked on each other. And then it can't take the swing point. So here, because this closed so far down, I'll show this. So price moves up into the high time frame fair value gap, trades away. It creates this fair value gap and then closes over it. So now it's an inverted fair value gap. This candle right here, this big down close candle, stopped right here. What you don't want is if this candle, the candle that does the disrespect of the fair value gap, the candle that closes over it, can't come all the way down and wick past this low right here. Technically, there's liquidity here. Even if it's small, somebody went long and put their buy stop or their sell stop here. So price can come down really fast, take that liquidity and then reverse. And that fair value gap inverted fair value gap will have meant nothing. So you don't want to see that. You want it to close higher like this than this low. And then you've at least got from here to here before you have to worry about price coming back on you. That's enough to either take a profit or scale out a little bit, move your stop loss up to break even. So if it did come back because of that small liquidity, it won't stop you out and ruin your trade. So you just want it to be before the swing point. So the close over or the singular fair value gap, what we'll see here, there's two of them stacked right here. And if we go to the 2 minute chart, which is going to make me scroll. Okay. So let's get rid of that. If we go to the 2 minute chart, okay, it disappeared entirely. So that's not a great example, but the point I'm trying to show is if there's double stacked or triple stacked, or you got a whole bunch of them, you just go up a time frame and see if it creates one singular fair value gap. And if there's still two there, you go up another time frame to the 3 minute. So now we're on the 3 minute. And if it's still there, you go up again to the 5 minute. And I don't like to take entries off of a 5 minute. It's quite large. I mean, for instance, there is one fair value gap here, and price does close over it, but it's way up here. Well, you're already so far into profit. Of course, price is going to come back. It's just your risk to reward at that point is just atrocious. So the 5 minute tends to be a little bit too much. And if price comes back on you, your stop loss could be massive at that point. So I like to use the 1 minute. It's a smaller time frame. In this case, since there wasn't anything on the 2 minute, I would have just considered this one big gap and waited for a close over right there. I like when it closes nice and close. Right here. Stop loss can be anywhere in here, whatever your risk appetite is. And you just target whatever. I don't think it went very far, but it ended up, see all these fair value gaps. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. Eventually it's going to reject one of those. So it was enough to say, just that impulse right there before it even made a sign of turning around. It was already past 50 points. All off of 20-point stop if you want to make it nice and tight to that gap. So if it comes below the gap, your trade's probably wrong anyway, right? But it just takes off and gives you easy 50 points. There's a gray box here. That's actually a new week opening gap. So if you use those, you can target those. Easy 55 points. Rejects a little bit on this candle, but then trades through it ultimately and loses steam. So there's always something to target. And there's always somewhere to set your stop loss that's appropriate. So figure that out on your own. But that's right there is my inverted fair value gap strategy in a nutshell. There's a short and there's a long. So that's kind of, I just got lost up there. That's kind of how it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think that's all that I really have for examples. I do have a spreadsheet that I'll link in the description. It's my public spreadsheet that shows all my trade data. There's a bunch of inverted fair value gap examples in there and backtesting data, so you can look at that and use that for what you will. I've got a bunch of other backtest stuff is in there too, so if you're interested, check that out. There's some other things in there that are fun and handy to look at. So the other, for those of you that did stick around, the bonus that I'm talking about is I'm starting a Discord server. I'm not trying to, snipe any members from anywhere. I am a part of a number of large Discord servers, so there's no intention of doing that. I'm not going to be selling anything, any premium services. I'm not going to specifically teach or mentor anything or anyone. I'm just creating this group to offer people a quieter place, a more close-knit place to chat. I become friends with a lot of people from these larger groups, and things kind of get lost in the mix there because it's so big. There's so much conversation going on. We can use this Discord as kind of a quieter place to chat, like the back corner of a library. So I thought I'd create it and see how it goes. All of my info is going to be in there and stuff, all of my videos, and you can ask me specific questions. My executions for the day will be in there. I'm not going to really call out anything, but I'll do reviews at the end of the day to show like what I saw, but I'm not going to call anything out ahead of time. There's not going to be any live streams or anything like that, though there can be. There's a live stream, like a little channel. If anybody else wants to live stream, I don't care. But again, I'm not going to really call anything ahead of time or live stream it. I'll post daily recaps and things like that. So if you're interested in that, I'm putting the link right here. It's not going to be in the description because I don't want randos to go in there and I want some quality people that'll actually take the time to listen to the videos, who are interested in what we're doing here, to actually join. So that's the link. Jot it down, pause it, whatever, type it into your browser, and it will take you to my channel. It's empty right now. As of the recording of this video, there is nothing in there at all. So it'll be kind of a weird place to get started. Kind of dead and boring and no conversation at the immediate moment. But as people join in and I'll be posting stuff, hopefully some conversations and questions will roll in, and it can be a nice place. So that's it for this video. My next video will be about quarterly theory and how I apply that to this entry model to increase my probability. It's really awesome, and I think you'll like it. So keep an eye out for that. Other than that, thanks for checking it out, and have a good one.